Hi guys, Pete here, N6QW, and I want to invite you this afternoon to the amazing world of unboxing. We're going to be unboxing this little piece of electronic assembly, and it's real important that we look at this overall to see just what's involved. Now, this box is approximately 4 inches long. It's about 1.5 inches wide, and it's about, in depth, and we have it about 2.5 inches in depth. So we got 4 by 2.5 by about 1.5. And this is really exciting because this is an exciting functionality that every ham needs, especially if you're dealing with vacuum tubes. One of the problems with dealing with vacuum tubes today is how do you get a power supply for it? And essentially what this is a new vacuum tube preamplifier power supply, and it has two significant ratings. Rating number one is the DC plate voltage that you can develop from this, and they stated at 300 volts at 300 milliamps. 300 volts at 300 milliamps, which is a pretty healthy, about 90 watts, 90 volt amps. Now the thing is, I have an earlier supply that I purchased, same one, and it has a little tab on there that you can either select 280 or 300. I was never able to see 300 volts with it. 280 consistently, but never 300. So I don't know what they're dreaming about that. But it's a switching supply, and has a wide range of input voltages. You can have from anywhere from 100 to 255 volts, just connected, which makes it kind of nice. Now, that's the 300 volts, or quoted at 300, but more like 280 at 300 milliamps, which is pretty healthy. And I have this same supply driving a tube circuit that has about 9 tubes in it, and nobody suffers, so it works real well. Then it has a 6.3 volts at 5 amps for the filament voltage. So 2 separate volts, you have 4 connectors. So we're going to unbox this now, and this is exciting. Remember the size of it. Doesn't weigh too much, pretty cool. And what's interesting about it is, if you're building a new vacuum tube, like a 1 or 2 tube transmitter, this occupies a really small space. You can bed it right in there and not have to worry about lots of cooling, what have you. Oh, there is one feature that initially when I got the other one, I thought it was broken. When you turn it on, nothing happens. Nothing happens when you turn it on. So you say, uh-oh, this is not good. But in essence, it's built into the circuit, because it's like a step-start circuit that you have in high-voltage power supplies, where because the capacitor bank looks almost like a dead short, immediately when you turn it on, it would short everything out. So instead, what they do is they step the voltage. They apply like half voltage to the plate transformer, and then let the capacitor bank build, and then after some significant period of time, like maybe 20-30 seconds, maybe a minute, it hits the other half of the voltage. So you have a step start. So it's half voltage and then full voltage. This has the same sort of thing in it, and I read it out in the fine print. Now, when you do that, at first initially you wonder if everything's kind of dead, but it's not. And there are 4 connections, and I'm going to have to open this box. I've already cut the tape. I think I did. Yeah, I did cut the tape here. Maybe didn't do such a good job. So the other part of the unboxing is to make sure the tape is cut. Thought I did that. So we cut the tape. Maybe we cut the other side too. Maybe that's the side I cut. So part of the boxing is don't cut yourself when you cut the tape. And again, the small dimensions of this, but it can deliver full 280 volts at 300 mils. Okay, look at this jewel. Just look at this jewel. Now they do tell you, if you're running this like not intermittently at 300 milliamps, but 300 milliamp constant current draw, you can mount this aluminum heatsink. So you have an input side and an output side. And on the input side, you have the standard line, neutral, and ground. So the line, of course, would be white. I'm sorry, the line would be black, the neutral would be white, and the ground is green. So it's the American standard. So you have to connect those 3 wires. Then what's really important is that you've got 4 connections here, and they're kind of screwed up. This is 300 volts. This is the ground for the 300 volts. This is the ground for the 6.3 volts, and this is the ground. So it's 63.3 volts and these 2 grounds I think are isolated, although you may common them downstream, but at least they're isolated on here. So you can have 6.3 volts at 5 amps, and that's some pretty heavy duty tubes. It'll take 5 amps. You put a couple of sweep tube amplifier, could easily have 5-6 tubes in it, and this thing would drive the tubes, but although 300 volts would be on the low side. This little yellow gizmo right here is the jumper that lets you go from 280 to 3 volts. I pulled the jumper out, I put the jumper in, pull the jumper out, put the jumper in, and guess what? Pull the jumper out, pull the jumper in, it still reached 280 volts. And at one time, I just let it sit there idle with no load on it, and then it sort of slowly crept up like 290 and then 295, but it never jumped up to 300 volts and stayed there consistently. So again, standard 115 volts with the line, neutral, and ground, and observe the color code. And then over on the other side here, you have 300 volts, ground, 6.3 volts. Look how small that is, and it's just very, very capable of delivering the goods. Like I said, I have it operating in a transceiver. It has 9 tubes in it, including one tube that's the final output tube, and that draws like an amp. So does really well from that standpoint. So again, we unboxed. Here's the box. We unboxed it. We have the input voltage, we have the output voltage, and what I'm going to do as a part of this video, I'm going to mount it in on a little board, and I have a little transmitter. We'll power the transmitter so you can see that happen. So again, we went through an exciting unboxing exercise this afternoon. This is the vacuum tube amplifier power supply, and by the way, the best part of this, less than $30. Less than $30 from Bozos, and Bozos is a combination of Bojack and Bezos, but it's not a Bojack supply, it's some other supplier. Does really well, but it's a switching supply. And the other important point, those people watching this unboxing video will ask, noise. Is it a noise issue? Some of these switchers, if you had it like operating a receiver, there's so much noise and hash you generated you can't hear any signals. That is not the case with this. It's just quiet as a church mouse. And as a matter of fact, I had the transceiver operating off of a linear supply and switch over this, and I couldn't tell the difference. So there was no noise being generated internally. Whatever noise, they've done a pretty good job of filtering it. Small, lightweight. You can mount it either in this position, or you can mount it in this position here, depending upon how much real estate you have in a circuit. But this makes it really nice because you could tuck this in the corner of a transmitter, and you have everything you need to go for that transmitter. Probably 15-20 watts would be a piece of cake. I wouldn't say you could run a couple 6146s off this. First off, the plate voltage is too low, so you're kind of limited to like in the 6V6, 6F6. I have operated a 6L6, but the most I can get out of that is about 10 watts because the plate voltage is a little low for that. But for a good, nice QRP transmitter, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 tubes, this would be just fine. So this is Pete, N6QW. We went through the excruciating unboxing exercise here. You saw me cut the box open. Comes in a real nice package, about $30 from Amazon. There's stock. You didn't have to wait too long. I think I ordered it one day at 5 o'clock, and by noon the next day it was sitting in my hand. So a really nice unit. And I have one installed already, so I'm convinced that this is well worth the $30. And it beats anything you could do, even if you scrounge up some parts, transformer here, rectifier there, filter capacitor there, you probably spend more than $30. So I'm going to end this video now. This is Pete, N6QW, and we did an exciting box opening. Hi gang, Pete back here, second part of this video. As I've mounted our power supply on a wooden board here, and this wooden board I've set up as kind of a test device for various pieces of equipment. I have a switch here. I can switch the power on and off. I have one of these special computer type plug receptacles, but built into it is a fuse. So I got a fuse block, I got the computer type receptacle, I got the on and off switch, and it's connected up, and the connections are line, neutral, and ground. Line, neutral, and ground, so it's black, white, and green. Over on this side, I got the 4 ports, so it's 300 volts DC, ground for the 300 volts DC, ground for the filament voltage, and 6.3 volts AC. So we'll connect in here. There's 2 screws that mounted. As I mentioned before, if you're only using it intermittently, this heatsink is enough. But if you're going to be essentially running continuous 300 milliamp draw, this thing's going to get warm. So they recommend putting it on another heatsink, and those 2 mounting screws can form the attachment. Or you could even do something as slick as you can mount it vertically this way, and I've done that in the other supply. And that vertical mounting makes it kind of nice, because what you could do is you could mount a little fan right to the back of the block here, the little fan, and cool it that way. So even with the 9 tubes that I've got running off the other supply that's a cousin to this, or brother, I should say, it never gets hot. So we're with the filament, with the plate voltage, it's not very much, and the filament voltage is only about half the 5 amps, so we're good. So this is Pete, N6QW. This rounds out the video of the unboxing, and this shows it mounted here. And I'm going to create a separate video where I'm going to connect the wires here to the supply for the 1-tube transmitter, which I have a 6F6, which will give me about 5 watts. So this is Pete, N6QW, and this is the finalization of the unboxing, showing the supply mounted. So it's got the switch, got the power receptacle, we got a fuse in there, so we're all good to go.